Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's April 20th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and I'm gonna try to. I think what I'm gonna do this afternoon. I got quite a few emails over the weekend, and just about every one of them have the same message, so to speak. And so I'm just gonna read the emails and see if you can pick up on what these guys are talking about, or these traders. They could be gals or guys. So see if you can pick up on what they're saying that really sticks out, other than the fact that they're having success. But listen to what most of them are attributing their success to. Hopefully it'll hit home for you. But yeah, in the big picture today, we really just had kind of a really much larger two-tiered week. This brown channel working lower. You really had to play these shorter term trends. Now this trend line would have helped you. I never would have dreamed that that prices were headed back to this trend line today, but that's why you draw it, because you never know. And if you did draw that off those first two swings, you would have known exactly where prices were turning down here. So it still plays out pretty well. You got this short term, you got the original two-tiered channel with a break and a few legs up, and then you got this one with a big overshoot that just led to the reversal. And when you saw that overshoot, you still could be thinking reversal, even if you didn't have that trend line. But if you just drew that trend line right there, it was obvious, especially when it turned down right there. And then people will probably ask me, why'd you start your trend line right there? That's because it really, notice we were still in this uptrend to here, and that's really where the downtrend started. And that's the only place I could get it to fit. So that's one reason. But I'm going to hold on this part because there's not a lot of trades in here. It shouldn't take us very long to go through those few trades today. It's just kind of it's just kind of a slow day up and a slow day down. So there's some spots in there, but notice how there's spots in there where you got to be really patient. And so as I read these emails, just listen to the undertone. Not every one of them, but most of them will have this undertone to them. But most of them some of them are just positive, so I thought I would share them with you. But I'll just read this first one here. Hey Mac, what you do teach works. I'm still trying to master it, so I'm still working on the simulator. So just to be clear, these are sim trades. But if you can do this on the simulator, or especially NinjaTrader with live data, that works just like the real thing, except obviously it's not real money, so you don't have that same skin in the game. But if you can do it on the simulator, you can do it live. You just have to get past that mental aspect. So I do want to clarify that he was on the simulator here. It says, so these trades are in playback simulator. I think I've improved my entry. Today was the first time in the last 2 years of failed trading when my win rate was 100%. I was taking 1 point profit and exiting with one contract. I took 10 trades in about 1.5 hours and stopped thereafter as I started losing focus. I took a mix of first entry and second entry. Also, I realized if I had a runner and break-even stop, probably I would have had many more points. I think what has worked for me, so listen to this. Waiting for the trend change confirmation, being selective in taking trades. Number 2, watching your latest and old analysis videos on YouTube to identify where would you enter and why. And I'm seeing similar patterns getting repeated. So I guess spending time reading charts in your videos along with my own practice and playback session is helping. If I stay consistent with one contract making 1 point, this will eventually replace my job. That is what I want to achieve. Can't thank you enough for providing fundamental technique that works. I know this is similar, but just could not hold back my excitement. So I agree. If you've been doing this for 2 years and never had a day like that, and then suddenly you have one, it tells you you're doing something right. But the one thing he said was he's waiting for the trend change confirmation, being selective in taking trades. So what is he doing? He's being patient. He's putting in his homework time too, but he's being patient. So I think I have his results here. Let me just see if I've got his results here. Yep, he sent me his trades. These are all his trades and all winners. So very good job. But just again, take away from that what what I wanted you to, mostly that he's having success. But why? Because he's being patient, and of course he's doing his study time too, but he's just not chasing trades all over the chart. That's what most people do. They're not patient. Okay, here's another one. It says, I'm getting good charts and quickly filled orders and having a good couple of months on sim, so I think it's all okay then. We had actually been going back and forth about, he'd watched the video about making sure you had good charting and good data and good internet and all that, so he was a little concerned about his, so he'd asked me. But anyway, this was one of his replies, and he went on, by the way, I've been positive for almost 2 months, Mac. I'm happy, 80% winning rate. This is the first time I'm consistent after a year when I started with your manual and price action trading techniques. I don't know if you know my story, Mac, but last year I quit my job at Citibank here in Argentina just to trade. I was a fixed income trader at Citi, but trust me, nothing to do with day trading. To be honest, Argentina is a very particular country in economic terms and other things too. I have a university degree in economics, and I think we are near a hyperinflation after this coronavirus passes and the activity starts again. We had more than a 400% devaluation of our currency the last 2 years, and we were almost at default at our public debt. Having said that, a salary in the US dollars would be great, but wasting job opportunities in this country is not free because there are not many. I did it anyway because I want to be a day trader and I don't care about anything else. And well, here I am trading full time and trying really hard. I told you this because I think I'm improving each day. Your lessons and your time you give with your responses and advices, I think all you told us is to help. I really trust price action as the things you teach because these are techniques. For the first time, I feel good about trading. I feel good about trading the ES, and more importantly, I think I can make a living from the markets using this as a trader and be a professional one day. I just need to keep working and studying. He does go on to say, sorry about my English. That's not Spanish is obviously his first language, and this is a second language for him, so he's apologizing for not having good English, but I very understandable. He just goes on to say how important my work is to him and others, and to keep it up. And I appreciate that. So again, I don't read these for me. I don't care about. I'm not looking for a pat on the back or anything. I read these because it gives others encouragement, and it shows you it can be done. So anyway, next one. Okay, here's another one, and hopefully you can get the same takeaway from this one as you maybe did a couple of the others. I've been studying about 12 hours a day for the last 4 weeks and watched over 100 hours of your videos, many of them several times, trading a couple hours a day in the sim and falling asleep at night reading your chart, study guide, manual. Now this is a guy that's dedicated. Not everybody's going to be able to do that, but if you can, that's definitely going to speed it up. But anyway, some days I just sit and watch your trading videos nonstop all day long. I can literally tell, this is interesting here, I can literally tell what year your video is by the sound of your voice now, and even if you had a cold that particular day. I even hear your voice in my head when I'm sim trading. When I hear something over and over enough times, it starts to make sense and you begin to believe it. When you say this is like trying to learn another language, I cannot think of a better description. To learn something well and succeed, one has to intrinsically enjoy it too. Money alone is not a good enough reason nor a motivator, and I agree with that 100%. If you're doing this for the money, it's always much harder. I did it for the love of it, and more to get away from my job than anything. Of course, money was one of the underliers, but it was not the most important one. I'm not the type of person who's going to send you my chart and ask what I did wrong. I'm doing my best to learn to recognize my shortcomings or failures on my own, as I feel that is critical to becoming better. And I tell people that all the time, and a lot of people don't believe that or get that, but this is a long journey, and it's a lonely one. But unfortunately, that's the way you have to get there to really make it. And once you make it, that it makes sense. When you hear me tell you that in the beginning, it sounds like a cop out, and people want to go to these trading groups and chat rooms and stuff, and I'm not gonna tear down any of those places, but the one thing you won't find there is experienced traders that are making money, because if they can do it, they're busy trading and making money. They're not at those places. So that's the issue there. You got the blind leading the blind in a lot of cases, so be very careful going there. So continuing, I've learned my biggest issue, and here we go, listen to this. I learned my biggest issue most of the time is I just need to slow down, step back, zoom the chart out, and take another look at the big picture. Today I traded on the open. I don't quite understand what he's saying. I think he's saying he traded the open for the first time using only second entries. No new trend was present initially, so I missed a huge reversal and the long runner. I was working from the top, but I still made 10 straight good scalps in the first 30 minutes, and not once did I have to even touch my stop or consider getting out of the trades early. I'm even starting to get to where I can, wait a minute, I lost my place there. Okay, I'm even getting to where I can pick out failed second entries, but not quite having enough faith to trade them yet. I've been doing most of this on a laptop. I'm waiting on a video cable so I can run 2 monitors on my regular PC. Let's see if there's anything else here. The psychological portion will be another challenge. My first real trading will be with the MES to get a feel for it while using a much smaller. So he's trading the MES, I guess. What you teach is priceless. I won't read anymore. But anyway, you get the gist of this. He's working, he's studying his tail off for one thing, which definitely speeds up the process. But hopefully you heard where he's starting to be patient and wait on the setups instead of chasing trades all over the place. Okay, here's another. It says, hi, Mac, I have not been in touch for a while, but pleased to tell you that I'm quietly making a success of this. Although still restricted by being able to trade without spreads in the UK without a very substantial account. And, you know, a lot of you heard me talk about spread betting. You got to be very careful with that. So, but anyway, he goes on to say, I've managed to make things work by using a combination, and he can't use tick charts for some reason or another, but anyway, by a combination of time-based charts. He says a different EMA, but he doesn't say which, so I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, but he's using time-based charts, and maybe if you do go to time-based charts, you need a little different EMA. I don't know. But just be careful experimenting with all that stuff. Whatever he's found is working here. He says, I've managed to make things work by using a combination of time-based charts. I've done a lot of work studying these time-based charts, concluded that the first couple of hours of trading are the most lucrative. The rest is usually scraps. And that was what I really wanted you to come away with from his email, is that, you know, you hear me talk about a lot. The mornings are the best times to trade. As you get into the afternoon, it's not always. There was some pretty good trades here this afternoon. But generally your best trading is the first couple of hours every morning before 10 o'clock. Definitely before noon. So I did want you to hear that in his message. This one I got today. So we have emailed each other over the years quite a bit. You have been my mentor and have helped me moving forward with my trading as a living. I wanted to share something that you may share, since we have had a lot of naysayers online. I recently had no choice but to go live again as a living due to a job loss. That was back in January. I did really well for the first month, only to lose it all, taking more risky trades, doing to getting cocky. And that happens to everybody, so you got to get a handle on that. But anyway, so I replenished my account again with limited funds. I thought I'd try to replenish my losses, only to go down once again. You can't ever get back at the market. So now I've been a student of yours for 5 years, have the man and watch every video. And the other day, Friday to be exact, a bell rung for me. So this is where it gets important, so listen. If I keep messing around and not being patient, waiting on the signals off the trend lines, waiting on the second entries and their failures, I was going to go broke and fail. So I opened up my Ninja Trader today and waited, drew my trend lines and adjusted them as time passed, and guess what? Had 2 winning trades and no losers. Not saying I'm not going to take some losers, but was patient and didn't try to find a trade. I waited for a trade to activate off your rules, and guess what? Easy money. And I felt good taking those 2 trades, because I knew if they did fail, I accomplished one thing. I was patiently waiting. I was patient, drew my trend lines, and waited for it to come back to the key entry point. Of course, he capitalized that. Thank you, Mac. Your friend in trading. So there it is again. Hopefully you're getting that message of learning to wait patiently at the key entry points where the trades come to you instead of you chasing trades all over the charts. I mean, everybody that's written to me really with success lately, that's the one thing they've pounded home, the being patient. And I already read this gentleman's first email, and he replied back to me again. I'd said I kind of agreed with him about the morning trading, and he writes me back. And this is a very interesting email, and this is what it really ought to be about. It says it's the same on European markets. I found that I have not had a trade in the first couple of hours, then best to call it a day. Otherwise, I will most likely sit for the next 4 to 6 hours and get nothing but a loss due to trying to force a trade. And that's what happens when you start trying to force trades, especially when it's a slow day and you hadn't had a trade for a while. You just start trying to make something happen, but you can't do it. So, but I can see when the money has been made. I may have missed it because I wasn't on form that day or because it just did not set up quite right on my chart. But I know when the prime opportunity has passed me by and I accept it and I come back tomorrow, I don't sit for hours on end anymore. I think that's the big turning point for me today. I spent all afternoon in my garden enjoying the sunshine. When I looked at the chart at 1:30 your time, I could not see another decent setup, so I would have wasted my entire afternoon. That's what trading should be about. Low amount of work time, maximum amount of free time. I'm going to read that one again. That's what trading should be about. Low amount of work time, maximum amount of free time. That's what led me to trading. Right there. I was sick of those 80 hours a week working for somebody else, dealing with people. There was another one somebody sent me that basically said the same thing, but I cannot find that email now. But basically he said the same thing. He made his money and he took off early to go enjoy the day. He was going to spend it with his 2 sons and his dog. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So that's the goal that we get to. And that's why most people, if you come to trading with that goal in mind rather than the get rich quick scheme goal, you're going to be a lot better off. This is not a get rich quick scheme, and I try to tell people that. Okay, I'm going to show you a trader's chart here, something that I noticed on it that's interesting. And first of all, if I show your chart here, I'm not picking on you. I'm not trying to make you look bad, and I won't ever call anybody's name, so nobody knows who it is anyway. But just understand that I'm not picking on you or trying to single you out or anything like that. It's helpful for other people to see it and to understand too. But I had this trader telling me that he sent me a couple of emails. He says, look, I'm doing everything right by the book and I can't get one trade right. And so I said, well, you got to send me a trade and then I can comment on it and we can figure out if that's the case or not. So he sends me his chart here and he couldn't figure out why this second entry long failed here. And so if you look at his chart, he went long one tick above this bar right here, and then he got stopped out right in the middle right here. And I'm not even sure, there's no times or anything on this chart, so I think I know about where it was on my chart, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not even going to try to guess. But anyway, he wrote me back. I said, I have no idea what you were thinking. You know, there's no trade there. It doesn't fit anything we're talking about. He also said his goal line was indicated his signal bar. So I don't, does that mean at the top of this bar he meant that was his signal bar? Because that is the first entry there. But I don't know if this broke lower or broke higher first. So maybe it broke higher, whatever. But if this is your signal bar, this is the one you would enter on. So, but he doesn't enter till this bar. So I guess he entered on, looking at his buy stop right there. It looks like he went long right there and then it backed up on him 8 ticks and he got stopped out right there. Well, first of all, this is a first entry and your entry would have been on 1 tick above this bar, however it happened. So you don't enter on a first entry with a bearish bar. I don't care where it sets up. So that was his first mistake. But let's say this was the second entry and this was a good signal bar. he would have entered on this bar right here, one tick above this one, not way over here, one tick. He missed the whole move because he's getting in. He should have been in it way down here, and so he missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So it should have been a winning trade, and I don't even know if it broke lower, if it went higher. It could have went higher from here, but he got stopped out because his safety stop has to go below the signal bar, so that should be way down here. If you put your safety stop in the middle of the bar you're trading on, you'll get stopped out 9 times out of 10. So I asked him to show me how he found the second entry, and this was the 2 legs up he showed. So he was counting off the lows, trying to go long. He really needs to go back and read the basics and understand, and I explained that to him, and I think he gets that at this point. But the point I was trying to make was I hear that all the time is I'm doing everything perfect and getting stopped out. Why isn't it working? And people get frustrated, and they're not even close to doing things right. There's no trade here at all, period. And you're trying to go long there, and you're not even if it was a second entry, you're not entering right. And so, but he knows all this. I'm not really talking to him now. I'm just talking to anybody else watching that's not getting it. So you got a new high right here. So you count off the highs on when you're in an uptrend. So your count's 0, so you're working back. That's your first entry. Now if we backed up here and then broke higher again, that would be your second entry. But you don't even, there's not enough price action to know if you ever even got a second entry. But if you were assuming that was the second entry, just pretend, then you should have entered right 1 tick above that, which would have been right 1 tick above, right across that little line if you can see it. And then he still would have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It would have been a winning trade unless it broke higher and turned down and then went back up, which I don't know if it did that or not, but it should have probably been a winning trade even though he picked the wrong spot. And that would only be because he entered with the trend in the right directions. If you just enter with the trend on corrections, you'll get it right more than you probably would any other way. Anyway, I hope that's clear. So that was one trade I wanted to show. Here's another one on the good old Thinkorswim, and just to back out and show you to begin with, his trend line's not right here. So, but that's not the issue. I just wanted to show that he doesn't have his trend line right anyway. But he wrote to me and said he had a losing second entry at a key entry point, which would have been the EMA. But just remember this, the EMA, and I don't know which one is which. He's got 2 on here. You only need the 21 EMA. Take the other one off because we don't care about any other ones. I would take whichever one. I'm assuming this red one's the 21 EMA. Or maybe the green one because that's where he went long. So he's below the EMA here going long into it. Or no, I'm sorry. I just don't know which one it is. So he's either, I would get rid of whichever one's not the 21 EMA. If the red one is it, you went long right into it. If the green one's it, then you did go long off the EMA, but you wouldn't be back to the trend line, which is way down here somewhere. So, but he also thought he went long on a second entry. But if you count, there's your new high. So count 0, you're working down. There's your first break higher. There's your first entry. Then you start working lower again, and that's the second time prices try to go higher after another correction. So there's your second entry long right there, and you got a very neutral, really got a bearish bar. So no entry there, but he missed a count, and he comes on down and he counted that as a second entry. So he just miscounted there. But the other thing I wanted to show you, and we'll find another one somewhere that maybe looks a little better than this one, but notice how even though you get a little correction there, notice how that all looks like one move down. You don't really see a bullish bar or 2 or anything. When you see a first and second entry like that, be leery of it because it's probably all of one leg and you'll probably get another leg down. So, I mean, it's just not an ideal setup when it looks like that. And I'll see if I can't find another one somewhere. See if there's another one on his chart maybe. Here's another one. Notice how you're working down right there. And you do go higher here, but notice it still looks all negative down there, and that looks like the first time you really try to go higher and then back. So notice there's really, you come down to this point, and then you make your second leg down right there. So it's really, it looks like two legs like that. Granted, you could count one like that. There's really three, but do you see what I'm talking about? How all that's still part of the negative move. Same thing right here. Notice that you tried to go higher right there, but it's still all part of that. If this bar was green in here and then another one, then it would look more like two legs. So maybe that's clear. I don't know if it is or not. I hope it is. So here's another chart I had open. This guy sent me his performance in an email, and I don't know if I read his email or not, but here's his performance. Total profit 7,000. Profit factor is, where's that? Over 3. And this looks like 1 month of trading. 4.2 to 5.1. Or no, that can't be. I can't read the date there. I can't really tell what that is. I think that's 3.1 to 4.2. Can't be. That looks like 5.1. We're still in April, so I don't know what that date is right there. Maybe he just picked a date. It wouldn't matter because there wouldn't be any more data out there. But here's the part I wanted to show you. 94 trades, 82, almost 83%, 78 winning trades, 12 losers, and 4 break-evens. That's pretty good trading. So I guess that would be 4.2 through whatever day he sent it to me. So even though he's picked 5.1 there, it would have been whatever day it was. And I think he sent this to me today. So it's probably a couple of weeks worth of trading there, I would think. So, but anyway, I wanted to show that to you too, because there's somebody else having success. Here's another one. This one was interesting because the trader wrote to me and he said, hey, I wanted to show you I learned something. He said, I traded a failed second entry long today and I was right. And so it shows that it can be learned. I think he was saying, you know, if I can learn it, anybody can. But basically, notice you got a new high, first entry, and then you had a second entry. And notice it's not a good setup. You've already had your break, a new high, you're below your trend line, you're below your EMA. And so just sit tight. Don't take that trade. And that's probably what he did. And then he noticed it break higher and then start heading down. Put your sell stop right there and boom, quick, easy move. And you can see how quick it shoots down and how bearish. Look, it had a real light angle and then sudden boom. And that's because they trapped a bunch of people there and it's a trap. And you know, that's the way it'll look. But that was a nice job. I wanted to make sure I showed that too. It shows you that other people can find these failures too. So, and really, you're not necessarily, a lot of times you will be anticipating in a spot like this, but the real key is you just know it's not a good long, so you're sitting tight, and you tell yourself, say, hey, if you end up getting a failure there, this looks like it might be a good trap place, and if it does, I may take the trap. And as soon as it breaks higher and you start seeing it moving down, go ahead and put your sell stop there if you like it for a trap, and then all of a sudden you're triggered, and boom, it's quick, easy, and it's over, and you're out. And you might catch a big move down. So, and here's one more trader sent me. This was his question. He says, I got a trend line working up, and then now I got one coming down and it got confirmed on the second entry short. So really what he's doing, there's a little lower swing there than right there. It's very minor, but it is. So you get a first entry and then a second entry. But the way I probably would have looked at this is this is one of those where it's all one move up and really all one move down. That's really all part of one move, even though there's a little dip in there. So I would have looked at that as one move up, a little double correction, and then another move up. And so that's 2 legs up, and then you got a lower high here that did confirm this trend line and a fairly bearish bar. So that's probably how I would have looked at that. Plus you could have counted it as a second entry short too, which gives it a little more credence. But personally, I don't think I would have taken this trade, because you're working up. You did have an overshoot, so that could, and that's a fairly big bearish move down, so you could get another move, but that's the first break of this trend line, and there's a good chance we may go higher to test this, to retest this high. Plus it looks like we're just kind of moving sideways here, so it looks a bit rangish. So I would be leaning towards prices going higher here, especially notice you get a higher high that's higher than these, a higher low, another higher high, another higher low, and then it's trying to make a lower high, and it ends up doing that. But right here, I would have probably been thinking, hey, there's too big a chance we're going to make another higher high here because we're making higher highs and higher lower lows, and we're expecting a possible retest. So, and this one's actually played out because you got a break and a new low. So I'd be thinking to the upside, and I'd probably skip that to the downside, even though it worked. It's not, I mean, he made a good read, but it's one of those that if I'm going to mark that trade, this is really your signal bar. This is just where he entered and where he exited. But this is his signal bar, and his sell stop would be one tick below that when it closed. And see, that's not a really, it's mostly bearish. It's not a perfect signal bar either. So that's another reason to say, let's wait on this one. That's basically what I told him. My thoughts were I thought prices would go higher here. I don't know if they ended up going higher there or not, but that's my thought process. So anyway, back to this chart. We got the big two-tier channel working down. It didn't really get confirmed until almost 11 o'clock. So I really did not see that coming, but that's why you draw your lines, because there's a good chance, just like this, and that would have been a good target working to the upside. So you got your break here, move to a new high, and you actually, first thing you probably would have wanted to do was measure this move and then look for a measured move, and that gets you to the tick right there. But we actually made that one last little push up, but now that you see that trend line, you know where prices were going. So I didn't have it drawn on there early this morning because I didn't think it was going to come into play, but it did. And notice we got another turn down right off it there, and then it was all downhill. Of course, I would have measured the move down, look for a measured move, and we didn't quite get that. We couldn't get through that support across there. So, but that would have kept you in this all the way once it turned down there. I would have kept me in it all the way. If you get enough bounces here, I wouldn't be afraid to maybe, if you got a good long setup, taking it. But I'd be careful because this downtrend has not had a break until right here. And of course, this is all after 2 o'clock anyway, so this would have kept you in it till 2 o'clock. So unless you were managing a runner, you wouldn't have had any more trades out here. And if you hadn't heard me say it, don't trade. You know, that's why this is white. Really, you can trade from 7 o'clock, so you can trade an hour and a half into here. Maybe I ought to change that, but I like to know right when the market's opening it at 8:30. So that's why I do that. It's 8:30 to 2, but I actually trade from 7 a.m. to 2, and that's Central Standard Time for anybody new. But I don't like taking trades after 2 o'clock because the market is not, you know, I read you a couple of emails, other people were saying that, seeing the same thing, that the market's not as reliable in the afternoons. There's less trades usually. It doesn't mean you won't have some really great moves and great trades, but for the most part, most of your trading is early on, from about 7 to 10, really, and definitely before noon. I try to be done before noon every day. Does that always happen? No, but most of the time I can easily be done by noon if I'm doing everything right. So, but another reason I don't like after 2 is if you make a mistake at 2 o'clock, you don't have any time to make it back, because you only have an hour of trading left, and you're going to get kicked out. Sometimes some brokers kick you out a few minutes before 3. It's been a long time since I was in a trade going into 3 o'clock, so I don't know what time most of the brokers kick you out, but most of them will kick you out automatically. They won't allow you to stay in because if you're day trading, so with day trading margins. So you could have a broker that doesn't specialize in day trading that will allow you to stay, but they'll suddenly take the extra margin, and if you don't have enough margin, they're going to kick you out too. So, but most of your day trading brokers are going to kick you out at around 3 o'clock, so, or a few minutes before. They're not going to risk you carrying a trade overnight without enough money in your account. So, anyway, let's just talk about the trades real quick. We got about 4 more minutes before we hit the 40-minute. I really like to keep these things under 30 minutes, but it's just been so hard lately. I'm going to go through these trades really quickly here. But notice we're working down here. Been no break of the trend line. you have a double bottom. This is basically a new swing low. It's lower than that last one, but it's a double bottom, so it's a new swing low. First entry. So there's your second entry short right at the EMA. Nice bearish bar. It doesn't look like it, but there's 2 or 3 points in there. So let me make this bigger. Would have worked. Actually, it doesn't trigger till here, and that's an inside bar, so that's another reason you probably wouldn't take it. But you actually would have entered 1 tick below that bar, and you would have been able to get out of this, but there's more room there than you think there is. But it's not a great setup because you just came off the other side, and you're through the midline, but you're at the EMA, and doesn't mean it can't turn down there, but the odds are you're probably headed back to the trend line. And in this case, we're really heading for a reversal, short period of a reversal. But we had an overshoot here. We really kind of overshot it there too. And that's sometimes you don't get a retest of the low. Notice we tried to go lower and couldn't, just broke higher. So for whatever reason, there was a lot of strong support. Every time prices got there, they took off. And then when you come back there this afternoon, notice the same thing. Every time we touched that line, prices jumped until eventually the trend line won out. And this is a great example of one of those wedges. And all it is you got a trend line working down that's holding, but you got this strong support that's holding. So it starts pushing it to a corner, and eventually one side gives. And the reason it went lower this time is because the trend line was working down. If we did this working up, it might break higher. So you can't trust. And notice it did break out the upper side first, and it always failed before it went lower. And I see them teaching all the time, if it breaks out the high, go long, or if it breaks out the low, go short. And you would have just got. So don't listen to that stuff. There's no such thing as a wedge. It's just competing support and resistance lines, and one of them will win out. So anyway, we talked about that trade. Then we're just working sideways here. And all it is, again, we're kind of stuck between some resistance here and this support line that I showed you. Well, for whatever reason, there's real strong support there at that price. But notice that you broke out and you tested that once, you tested it twice. There's enough room to get out. It doesn't look like it, but it is. So you may take that trade. Again, you got a little inside bar. So it makes you question that one, but still, if it breaks lower, you're probably going to at least get to the other side. And you may go lower because the rule right now says we're still looking for a retest to the low. So it would have worked, but all you would have got was a scalp. So, and then it takes off the other direction. And notice you're kind of working this trend line up. That's another reason to be a little leery of that one, because of this trend line working up here. But this is more sideways. I wasn't trusting that trend line too much at that point, to be honest with you. I was really looking at this sideways. But it bounces. And then we get a little two-legged pullback, and there's a second entry right here. Again, the second entry really triggered here. But these have matching lows. So you may let it break higher there and drop a limit order back here, a little 1 tick above this one, or maybe just even a few bars or ticks back into there to get a little better entry, because that's a really big bar. And it's still a second entry at the key entry point. And look at it take off. And then we just start going sideways again. Nothing in there. Just stay out of that. You'll get whipsawed. You do get a setup here pretty much off the trend line, but no, the signal bar is horrible. Then we're working back again. And you got a little trend working down. You get a break, 2 legs to a new low, and a nice bullish bar. There's a little room back to the EMA. That's one of those that you could argue to be green as well. And notice several of these are green. Means that there's some reasons you could look at that trade, but they're aggressive, and you know they're not perfect setups or anything. So, but they still kind of fit our rules one way or the other, and that's kind of like this one. Really, that's a double top. So first entry, second entry. But you wouldn't add that trend line. But you figure here you got a break. You got this one coming down. You got a break in 2 legs. Second entry. Plenty of room back to the EMA. Plus it's also, even though you don't see it here, it's bouncing off of that support out there. So that's another reason I like that one. But anyway, you work higher, and notice what happens here. You get a first entry short, and then you get a second entry short that fails. So if that goes higher, that's a failed second entry short, and that's a reversal type pattern, and off it goes. Again, you don't get a whole lot out of that one, but you're looking, that's the you actually had a close outside back here, but that was still in the overnight, and so I would still consider this probably has not had a close outside yet until here. So, and then we may have another trend line, so draw that, you know, look for, a lot of times you'll see that flatter trend line come out of a trend, and so you got to be prepared for it. We just talked about that one. Then we went higher, and then first entry, second entry, and this was actually a third entry. But the reason that I kind of like this one is because we made that low there, tested it once, and you tested it twice. You got a relatively small bar. You're working sideways here, kind of. This is off those lows, and you got a double test of it. Plus, if you look, this is an example of one like I showed you. That's all one move. So on a bigger picture, that's a second entry short. Now that's going to confuse all you newbies. Just don't even think about it. But if you went to a slightly bigger chart, you wouldn't probably see the break there. It'd just be one move, and then the move, and then the second entry. So that's what that means. It's a hidden second entry, but that's really far advanced, and it just confuses most new people. So, but you've also got the double test and all that going on. That was resistance. It's like a little two-tiered range kind of working up there. We're still working sideways in that range, and then we pull back here. Notice that new high, first entry, second entry. You got to be careful on the second entries in the range. You're not just looking for those. But the real thing is this bounced off the trend line, and it's two legs back from a new high. So that's your perfect setup, and look at it go now. Plus, we've broken through this upper resistance and kind of cleaned out, it kind of nullified it to some degree, and look at it go. Plus there's plenty of room to get out. Even if you don't make it there, you're going to get a scalp out of that probably, and look at it go. There's another second entry right there. We're back in that trend line. Notice that new high, first entry, second entry, and that's not a bad bar. That's not a great place because you're at the upper side of the new trend channel, and you're going long right into it, but there is a little room, so that's another one you might argue. Really what you got here is you got a, if you looked at some others, they'd show you that like a little flag. There's your flag pole and your pennant or whatever. But again, what's causing that? You got your original trend line working up from the steeper from this channel, and prices have gotten back in it. But then you've got the upper trend channel line of this flatter channel running right across there, and prices are just stuck between it. There's another example of what causes these pennants and flags and things, and there's all it is competing support and resistance. So we work back to the midline and we bounce there. We come back on the second entry and we bounce there again. Not a very good signal bar at all, though. If you had a good signal bar there after just bouncing there, you may take that one. But when it tries to turn down again and goes lower and then breaks higher, I'd take that trade. And again, this is another one. Well, really, that's just a first entry anyway. But I think right in here somewhere is where the other gentleman had that. Maybe it was right up here where he had that losing trade, and I wasn't sure where it was at. Notice you're working down, and you get a first entry and then a second entry. But notice how that's all one move and then a bounce. So that really looks more like the second entry right there than this one. So that's what I was talking about, where even though that broke higher, I'd still treat that as one leg. And if you would have taken that one, it's not a great entry, but it still would have been good for a scalp. And then it turns down again because we just came off the high and we overshot it. So where we probably headed back to here, and that's exactly where prices go. They dilly-dally around that midline a little bit, but eventually they go on lower. This is holding so far. Now you get a break and a move on down. I don't see anything I like here. There's a lower high right here, and we're expecting to go down, but it's not a very good signal bar. It's right into the EMA, and we run down, and you get a first entry, and then a second entry right there. Again, that's an inside bar. It is off the key entry point. It is a very bearish bar, but it's just a up-down bar. It doesn't really look like two legs back other than the color scheme of it. It really is two swings back to the trend line, but it's just not an ideal setup. You could have taken it. I marked it green. And you can see how you had to be really patient today. There's just not a lot of trades. There is another second entry right there. Notice that. Technically it's not, because there's a new low, and then notice you get 2-bar matching low that backs up. So when it comes back down, that's really your second entry, and you don't want to be going short there. So, but that's another one where it looks like a leg up, a correction, a leg up. So if you're counting off the lows, it's a first entry, second entry right there. So it's another one, but we've already had our break and new low. So that's another one you may take that you could argue to be green or whatever. And it would have worked. You wouldn't have got much more out of it, but you're actually looking for prices to reverse or correct right there for a little bit. And notice they do end up correcting. It turns out there's another trend line up here. That's just a first entry. So when it turns down right there, it's a second. Notice that new low is lower than that one. So first entry, and it tries to go higher and turns and goes down. So when it turns down right there, it's a second entry short. And look at that one go. But that's right off the trend line. You could treat that as a lower high. So there's a couple of different reasons to like that one. You don't know you're going to get that move out of it, but it turns out to be a good one. And you probably should have measured this leg and look for at least a measured leg. We actually went a little further before it corrected. And then notice that low, and we haven't got to the other an equal distance yet. So correction, first entry, second entry. I like that one. And it makes a new low, first entry, and then second entry. And that's a repeat pattern, really, almost of that right there. Notice you got a lower low, and it goes up first entry, and it breaks higher and turns down. Lower low, first entry, breaks up, turns down, second entry. That's hard to see that second entry. It's not a textbook, but it's still a second entry. So if you can't see it, it's there. So we made a low, then we corrected, and then turned out. It just so happens it broke higher and broke lower all in one bar. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens some. And that took us into the 2 o'clock hour. And we're at 50 minutes today. I didn't nearly intend to go this long. So I'm going to wrap it up right now so I can get this done. It'd take forever to process it, but I'm done. This is Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.